Welcome back to another video, guys. Hope you're enjoying this series about George explaining everything. Today we're going to jump from episode 1 all the way to episode 3, my favorite episode in Star Wars, and start with a very famous duel. George Lucas explaining Dooku versus Anakin, the test that never really was a test. We're going to be cross-referencing a lot from the novelization as well, but the majority of all of the info here is coming from the making of Revenge of the Sith. If you haven't checked this book out, I highly recommend it. It is a fantastic read, and the bulk of the channel is going to cover this book for the next probably few months, so well into Christmas. So sit back, hit like, and let's get started. Now, the duel between Count Dooku and Anakin Skywalker at the start of Revenge of the Sith isn't a heroic moment. It's not even a duel between two Jedi or two Sith. It's a setup. The moment Palpatine proves he owns the game board. George Lucas built this fight to look like triumph, but to feel like corruption, because it's the first time that Anakin kills for control and calls it a victory. In the making of Revenge of the Sith, George tells the crew this. This is where Palpatine proves he owns both sides. It's the same war, the same manipulation, the same play that he's been running since Naboo. Create a crisis, divide the peacekeepers, and let fear choose the winner. Now, Dooku's death is not a win for the Jedi, it's the confirmation that their champion has already lost. So when George staged the scene, he made sure that the tone was quiet and almost cold. There is no big choir by John Williams, there's no anger, it's just heavy breathing and the sound of two lightsabers clashing in a room built to look like a throne, kind of mirroring Return of the Jedi, which kind of is what it's all about. It's two of his pawns fighting for the new position. It's a coronation. George says, Anakin doesn't kill Dooku out of hate, he kills him out of confusion. This really throws a wrench into everything. Anakin, sure, he was angry when Dooku was saying, let go of your anger, let go of your hate, but in the end, he was freaking confused. And this is crucial. So at this point, Anakin still thinks that he's the hero. He believes he's saving the Chancellor, ending the war, doing the right thing. But George wanted the audience to feel the disconnect, the moral slippage where duty and fear are blurred together until murder feels like mercy. Palpatine engineers the whole thing as an experiment, and in the script drafts, George called it the test. Dooku isn't there to win, he's there to die. The fight exists to show whether Anakin will listen to fear or compassion. The moment the sabers lock and Palpatine says, "Good, Anakin, good," the test is over. Do it. These two words are the entire philosophy of the dark side distilled, permission disguised as encouragement. Authority masquerading as trust. It's not an order, it's absolution. That's why Dooku's face changes. It's that split second before he dies where he realizes the truth. The Sith don't take apprentices, they recruit victims. Now, Matthew Stover in the novelization writes that moment with surgical brutality. In that instant, Dooku understood he was never meant to survive. So he kneels not as a man defeated, but as a believer that was betrayed. He spent a decade thinking that he was building a new order, and then dies realizing he was nothing but a pawn to the next one in line. Now, George told Ian McDiarmid and Hayden Christensen to play the scene like a ritual. It's slow, intimate, uncomfortable. Palpatine's tone drops to a whisper because this isn't about the kill, it's about what the kill means. George said, this is the first time that Anakin crosses the line between thinking and obeying. So he's not channeling his rage anymore like he did with the Tuscans. He's shutting down empathy entirely. Take note of this frame here where he hesitates. The saber is slightly shaking, the look of conflict, and then watch Palpatine's eyes. He doesn't blink. He's not watching the execution. He's watching the decision. And that's what the Sith feed on, not blood, but surrender. And this is where George links it directly to Return of the Jedi. The scene is deliberately symmetrical. Both have a fallen apprentice, a captive master, and an emperor telling a Skywalker to kill. The difference is moral evolution. Luke refuses to do what his father did. George says, Luke and Anakin face the same choice. Luke turns away. That's what redeems the father. So this opening scene, a lot of people think, oh, it's just getting the movie started. It's Anakin versus Dooku. We get Dooku out of the way. This is an extremely important scene. This is mirroring Return of the Jedi in so many ways. Where Luke sees the trap, Anakin doesn't. And because of that, the same gesture, a saber raised over a helpless man, creates two opposite outcomes. One births compassion and the other damnation. Now, it's also poetic because if Anakin didn't sacrifice himself and make all of these horrible decisions, Luke wouldn't have been able to see what was going to happen to him, just by looking at his father's life and trajectory. Now, Dooku is the first, Anakin is the next, and the audience is supposed to feel how easy the handoff is. The Count was once a Jedi who left because he thought the Order had lost its soul. He wasn't wrong, he just didn't realize the man who agreed with him would use that truth to destroy both sides. Now, Stover puts Dooku's last thoughts in plain words. His ideals had been turned into weapons, his life into bait. And that's what makes the duel pretty tragic. It's the noble duel between Sith Lord and Jedi Knight, where it's really a machine just resetting itself. It's the Republic consuming the last person who still believed it could be reformed. Dooku's death is the Jedi's death, just wearing black robes instead of brown. And for Anakin, it's really the first taste of control. He allowed himself to open that burning furnace within him and unleash his powers, no longer constrained by Jedi ideals. So Palpatine congratulates him and he calls it justice, and no one in the film ever tells him otherwise. Obi-Wan is unconscious, the Council is silent, and the galaxy applauds a war hero, not a murderer. And that's the trap. Not the Order, not the politics, but the approval. The Jedi's own moral system rewards him for what should have been unthinkable. Now, George told Hayden this during shooting. You're saving the Chancellor, you think you're doing good, that's the tragedy. And that, for me, is why this fight is so critical to Anakin's psychology. The Mace scene later on, which we're going to get into, and George has a lot to say about it. In fact, Mace was supposed to die. That scene isn't a sudden flip. It's the next logical step. And I think this is what a lot of people who casually watch Revenge of the Sith fail to understand, is they think, oh, Anakin turned so quickly. Well, no. You had several episodes, 2 and 3, to really kind of see what happens to him in his later years as a teen and young adult, completely ignoring what was going on in episode 1, let's say. To really understand his turn to the dark side is actually quite slow. I mean, it took him over 10 years. So once Anakin has killed for peace, in this case, killing for love doesn't really feel all that different. Now, Palpatine doesn't need to seduce Anakin later because he already knows the boy's price: purpose. The dark side doesn't trick you, George says. It tells you what you want to hear. And that's what George wanted to show, the subtle erosion of conscience through good intentions. It's the most believable kind of fall because it's the kind that we all rationalize as humans. From a production standpoint, George also shot the duel like a reversal of the Return of the Jedi throne room. And I really want to drive that point home because it shows that the third film in each trilogy really just mirrors itself. If you pay close attention, there's the same triangular blocking. The Emperor above, hero below, victim in the middle, the same lighting cue, blue sabers flashing over a red backdrop. It's a visual rhyme, and it is beautiful. George said that he wanted the audience to recognize the pattern before the character does. And when Anakin stands over Dooku's corpse, sabers still crossed, like a religious symbol, if you will, George tells Hayden, "You've just killed the man you are supposed to become." And that's why Dooku's expression matters. There's no hatred, no vengeance, just the realization that he's been replaced by someone even more lost. And that's the Sith cycle in one image, each generation dying at the hands of their own reflection. Now, this duel is the first death in Revenge of the Sith, and it's the most important because it's clean. Every other death after this will be emotional, it'll be messy, and it's tragic, but this one is precise. It's the kind of killing that almost feels, well, no, it does feel justified. And that's exactly why George made it happen first. He wanted to show that evil doesn't announce itself, it hides behind duty. Now, Anakin thinks he's fixing the galaxy, George says. He's already breaking it. And so what does the film do? It opens with a rescue and it ends with a funeral. And that's not coincidence, it's done by design. George wanted the audience to understand from frame one that this isn't a story of good defeating evil. It's a story of good becoming evil by trying to control it. The duel with Dooku is where the light side starts lying to itself. And by the time Anakin kneels before Sidious, that lie has become truth. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and this breakdown of that scene from what George was saying with some cross-references from the Revenge of the Sith novelization. I hope you enjoy these types of videos. I absolutely love them, and I'm just really passionate about it. So please do leave a like for me to make more. I hope this video gets out to more and more people. Please do share it with your friends or on Facebook or Instagram, whatever, Twitter, and I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Fulfill your destiny.